Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is another one of our weekly guided reflection sessions where we're going to take about 40 to 50 minutes and we're just going to sit here, be still, and think about our lives. We're going to pose simple questions that's meant to get us to think more about our lives so that moving forward we can be clearer and more precise in our actions, in the trajectory that we want to go. So, like usual, we're going to start with just 5 minutes of breathing. 5 minutes of breathing. I have friends that go on tours, musicians, and feedback I get from them about just important things, breathing. You wouldn't think about that. You wouldn't think about all these rock stars breathing. But it's true. 5 minutes. Go. All right. Just in and out. And if thoughts come up, just let them pass. We're just breathing in and out. How do you get an alarm to not be so jarring? Do you have to like wear it on your wrist and it vibrates, wakes you up, something like that? I don't know. Okay. Now, if you have a notebook, fantastic. If you're listening to this, be consciously thinking about it. Whatever works best for you. That's what I think people get confused about with life. You can live it however you want. And in America, you're free to live however you want. So you have to figure out how you want to live. And so when it comes to sessions like this, decide, do I find it best to write or just to think or whatever, you know? Me, I like this. I like having set journals for stuff like this. Okay. This is just my regular journal, my every day. I'm at 150. So I got to start thinking about another one. I think this is my 10th journal. Usually it lasts 5 to 6 months. But why don't we start with the first question, of course. What are we grateful for? If you're ever feeling stuck, feeling lost, feeling agitated, or anything, if you want to get to a recentered position, think and ask yourself, what are we grateful for? And you'll start finding just a laundry list of things you can be grateful for. And it takes you out of your own world. You know, we're often in our own heads. We need to get out of that. And reflecting on gratitude really helps. I have a lot of energy today. It's summer. It's finally summer. Oh my gosh. I'm not wearing any shoes right now. See? I have found with myself, I'm either barefoot or in shoes. And I have indoor shoes inside that, you know, I won't get anything dirty or whatever. So I have separate occasion with shoes and whatever. But barefoot or shoes, I find that to be the most consistent thing. I love just the natural element of bare feet. So what I want you to think about for this next question is how you prefer to wear your shoes or not wear shoes. Because there's also, I have found, groups of people who like wearing socks. No shoes and not barefoot, but socks. And it's just an interesting thing about our human experience. You know, we're all different and we all have our own quirks and things like that. And I find when the weather is really nice, especially, I'm in barefoot. Not in barefoot. I am barefoot. I think footwear is a very consistent, accurate window into the personality of a person. I might have mentioned this before. I went to the Field Museum yesterday, and one of the things I like doing is looking at people's shoes. Because I find at the Field Museum, you have so much more variety of shoes and footwear compared to, say, a museum like the Art Museum. So it demonstrates the diversity of people and backgrounds and stuff. But yeah, like a casual sneaker, and then you get into brands and Adidas and things. Those really there's just so much on the shoe, the ugly dad shoes, that says something about someone. You know, someone wearing a fresh pair of Jordans says something. Someone wearing dress shoes says something. Work boots says something. Heels versus like a casual slip-on thing, you know? It's everything can be a window into better understanding another human being. It's those nuances to pick up on. Yeah, barefoot is definitely correlated with warm weather. Two people I'm thinking about one of my friends, Sammy Sharif. He's a poet, artist, and musician, all the above, filmmaker. And whenever I go to his studio, he's always barefoot. And then my friend, who I stay with in Miami, he'll just be on his computer. And we got the beach, so we're in his place. And just go out on the balcony and barefoot on the computer in the Atlantic Ocean. Barefoot has like this no restraint. It's like you're not restrained by anything. Whereas socks are constraining, and shoes are a little bit more, we're gonna go do something. Socks, that's how I never got down with socks. It's like non-committal. It's like, what are we doing here? Anyways. I was on the farm this last week, helping in the fields. It's planting season. So I was up in Wisconsin, and when I came back, all of a sudden I could see everything. It was remarkable. Like, everything is in front of us. The difference is if we're open to see it and act upon it. It's strange, like everything just, over the last 2 or 3 days, has just been kind of awe-inspiring. It's like whatever we were thinking or wanted in our heads, it was like it just showed up. And the difference is probably it's been like that, but I've been in a headspace to ignore it. So for this question, I want you to think about things that have come up in your life over the last 2 or 3 days. Are any of those things in alignment with what you want or steps to something you want? You know, it's like wondering, whether these things are always around us, which I think they are, but we're too distracted to see them. We're in our heads, right? And that's the value of the things that we're doing here, is the ability to be present, to be open. So really think and reflect on if there are things that have come up recently. Could be things you acted on and things you didn't, but try to put yourself back in place and be present in particular moments where that could have happened. Moving forward, how will you go about it differently? Yeah, I noticed that if I put my head down for too long and I'm working on things, right? I spent the last 9 weeks doing a really intense, being really intense, I should say. And I feel so much lighter coming back from nature, and we had finished, or my part is finished on the farm. So now I feel like I can breathe again, and all of a sudden I'm noticing all these other things. It's really interesting. But I think these things are always there. It's a matter of we're open or distracted. I have on my whiteboard, I don't know if you can see it. It stays up. It says, everything is right in front of us. See it. Act upon it. Conscious. Yeah, that whiteboard is going to turn into a mural. My roommate's friends comes over and she draws on it. Really talented. It's been so windy in Chicago. They should call it the Windy City. I went to the Field Museum yesterday, got a slice of deep dish pizza and Kilwin's ice cream. 2 gigantic scoops of ice cream. The girl helping me spent like 3 minutes just like getting the biggest scoop. Blue Moon, Georgia peach. I wonder what chemicals are in the Blue Moon. They make it delicious. So his next question will be, what's your favorite dessert? Lately, man, nothing hits better than ice cream on vacation. I feel like I'm on vacation right now. Well, now it's summer in Chicago is outstanding. Please visit if you are at all interested in Chicago and the city and its culture and everything. And it's the best American summer city, hands down. I'm gonna go for a walk in a little bit after we're done recording. What's your favorite summer dessert? How about that? Yeah, ice cream just hits so good. I always get the dessert and desert spelling mixed up. 2 S's, 1 S. Deserted. The action of being served. Dessert, is that a word? Deserted. So many different kinds of dessert, too. In all different cultures. Yeah, ice cream. That's a good one. It's something that's come to my attention or on my mind is like different sorts of foods among generations. And just how everything, like what kind of food and also how it's presented. We're talking about ice cream right now, right? So older generations are more likely to enjoy praline, butter pecan, rum raisin, I feel like. And more millennial, younger, is something like Jenny's Ice Cream, a brand where it's experimental and it makes the ice cream store kind of like an experience. Everything like younger seems to be more experience based, and then older, there's less detail and attention put into the packaging, and the flavors are pretty standard. Yeah, I would say I'm a amateur ice cream connoisseur. On vacations, I would say. Now at home, I'll in Wisconsin, I only have Greek yogurt here. But I add blueberries, some cinnamon, some honey. Not bad. Let's think about how we can be useful. And let's put it in context of summer, as we're at the beginning of summer here. This summer, how can we be more useful to people around us or our loved ones? So what activities, what things are going on in the summer that we can really help, really add value to? It's something I've been thinking more about is usefulness, being a useful person. And I feel like that's usually in the sense of, to be useful, you need to have some type of skill that others do not have. And with that skill and your experience and your personality, you add value to that equation, whatever's going on. Usefulness. And you help out because you can. You can contribute. You can help out. You can show that you love this person. You want to see them be well, do well. Tomorrow I'm recording a friend's show. Well, why don't that be the next thing? What's a skill you have that can be useful to others? The skill doesn't have to be tangible either. It can be something like about your presence. You know, I bring humor, which is useful in situations, or, you know, just think more about what you have to offer. Something you've developed and that perhaps has been more natural for you, and using that, applying it to help others. Yeah, tomorrow I'm recording my friend's performance. He's playing a show in Chicago, so he's flying from LA. I haven't seen him since I stayed with him in LA back in March. And I'm so energized to see him, be a part of it. So I'm recording the performance. I'm so energized because I know what it will be like. I know the fun we'll have because I've done it for him in the past, including last summer in London. 5 sold-out shows, Hobo Johnson and Bone Lane. And so every night I would record the shows, and we just had so much fun. And we show up at sound check. Sometimes I'm like the first one there. But just being useful, you know, like, hey, I have 6 iPhones and tripods and skills and experience recording stuff. Let me help you. And so I'm energized to be useful tomorrow. That's what really life is all about, in my opinion, is like helping others, developing yourself so you can give, right? So what's something you're energized for coming up? Yeah, that London trip is something I think about recently. It's kind of like a blur. 8 days in London, all different areas, sold out shows. But then I went to the British Museum, the National Gallery, Natural History Museum. I needed better Wi-Fi, and I happened to just go into the British Library, come across the Magna Carta, original Beatles handwritten lyrics, Da Vinci notes, Michelangelo poems, crazy. Just randomly. That was pretty cool. The weather though. It was summer and it felt like fall. Raining all the time. Jeez. But I think about that time, such an amazing experience, amazing people. I met so many awesome people. And I kind of regret not being more present, because I wanted to just go to Paris, because I'm working on a book series called Nuance and Notes. I go around to cities and appreciate details in the architecture and designs on building facades, and I take photos and I make them black and white, and I'm making different books. And Paris had these designs that I that's what I wanted. So one day I went to the train station to buy a ticket, and I thought it was going to be like here in America, where it's like, oh, you buy a train seat for $10 and it gets you to, but there it operated more like an airline, because it's like a 2.5 hour to go to London to Paris on train. And it would have cost me like $450. And I'd be there for six hours. Or was it 4 hours? I think I only would need 6 hours for what I wanted. I was like, I could buy a round trip ticket for $500 and stay for a week. So that's what I did. But I remember that trip just being so disgusted with London's architecture. It's too rigid. And the shapes they use are like perfect. So they're rectangles, squares, or circles. But there's no playfulness about it. And it seeps into the culture, where you have like posh and punk. So people are all about the monarchy, the king and the queen, and uppityness. And then you have like punk, and I was in a lot of like punk areas. So like we were in some metal bars, and people with tattoos and piercings. More than I've ever seen in America. So it's kind of a snapshot of culture and history where, it makes sense that the punk scene would come out of London in the 1970s. That makes a lot of sense. I remember one night after the shows, we were in this metal bar. Black Sabbath, War Pigs was on, and we were just like feeling so good, and we're all just like singing along to it. I'll never forget that. That was cool. And I think that's what life is about. It's those moments where you're just in the moment, usually surrounded by friends, and you're just all there and celebrating. So what's a moment like that you've had? Yeah, that's what makes life worth it, and everything you do just worth it. It's those moments. It's really beautiful. I want to cry. The Black Heart in London, that was an unforgettable place and night. That's funny. Yeah, London was intense. Yeah, so the further distance I have from that London trip, I remember it more fondly. Whereas I don't think that way about the week I was in Paris in November. One was with people, one wasn't. No, but then we met people. But London is just a lot more varied in experiences that you can have. It's so much bigger. It's enormous. So spread out. Whereas Paris, you could basically walk an hour in any direction and get to the kind of main things. It's all one aesthetic in Paris, which is an incredible aesthetic, but London is kind of everything. Kind of like New York in a way. Paris, like, London is posh or punk. Paris is love or loneliness. You do not want to be alone in Paris. It's a miserable place to be alone. Where's somewhere that you want to go next? Doesn't have to be an international city. Doesn't have to be a big city. It could be like just anywhere. Anywhere outside of your normal day-to-day life where you spend most of your time. You know, and if you haven't traveled much, like, think about it. Think about where you'd want to go. I didn't always travel much. I didn't fly anywhere until I was 18, I think. I didn't leave the country until I was 28. I had a friend who had studied abroad, really close friend, who had studied abroad in Australia. I traveled around Europe, and I was like, how do you do it? And something that always stuck with me, because I always thought that to travel you had to have money. That was kind of my country folk perspective. But he's like, if you don't book it, you won't go. I was like, there's nothing hard to understand there, right? If you don't book the trip, it won't happen. It's that simple, right? So if you really want to travel somewhere, book the trip. Book it. If you don't book it, you won't do it. And to me, as someone who travels quite frequently now, it's not that expensive. Especially if you have friends somewhere else. People who want your company, that want to see you, that want to spend time with you. go visit them. You know, that's probably the biggest cost to a trip is staying somewhere. I've done Airbnb. I've stayed at a hotel recently. Staying with friends is cool. Airbnb, I've stayed at some recent ones in West Hollywood and New York. Airbnb is a fantastic company, in my opinion. I used to host guests on Airbnb for years. It was really enjoyable. Met a lot of cool people. That's a really innovative company. So this next question, what's your favorite company that you appreciate, what they do, the value that they provide? Could be anything, you know? I think so often in society we're always hearing about the bad of companies, or the narrative is that companies are bad or capitalism is bad, or I don't know, corporations are evil, like that type of stuff. But I think that's really nearsighted. I think we all have companies that we really appreciate exist, and the service they offer, the value to our lives that they bring. And yeah, Airbnb is definitely one of those companies to me. I don't use it very often traveling, but I use it a lot hosting. Do you have a world map of where all my guests were from? That was cool. I remember these guests from Germany. They wrote us a note at the end of their stay pointing out that our clocks were off. And it was the third place in America they've stayed and the clocks have been off. I think that perfectly fits like the German the culture. Everything needs to be like super precise and buttoned up. Engineering. Here our clocks are like an hour off. We forget to set them from daylight savings time, stuff like that. To me, that was like the epitome of like a thing a German would say. We had a guy from Australia, Melbourne, Australia, stay with us for 5 weeks in the summer. He bought a bike and he was taking comedy classes at the IO Improv. Great space. And he couldn't bring the bike with him, so he gave it to me. So I used that bike up until it accidentally got thrown out by the building that I live in. And then I have a bike right here, which another friend gave to me. Look at this. I feel like bikes are something I'm not willing to buy myself. I don't know. there's just wheels to get you from A to B. Yeah, so what companies do we appreciate? I mean, think of like Spotify. Like, I use Spotify to listen to music. And it's part of my day, every day, many times a day. A company is so integrated into our lives like that. This last question for this session, let's think about movement. Let's imagine over the summer, how are we going to move our bodies? What kinds of activities are we going to be doing that are going to bring us exercise and enjoyment and fun? It's important to our health to move. It could be playing basketball, it could be going for a walk, it could be roller skating, roller blading, cycling, swimming. Like this summer, how are we going to incorporate movement into our lives? Yeah, summer in Chicago. Really energized for this one. Thinking about recent trips I took to LA and Miami, and how all I really cared about was being outside. Just go on walks outside. Just be outside. Be by the water, breathe fresh air. That's all I did. One of the things I did. But that inspires how I want to live this summer. Chicago, Wisconsin, wherever. I want to thank you for being here, being a part of this reflection session. Might not seem a lot right away, but when you make this a habit and you do it repeatedly and you take the time out of your day just to think more about your own life, think about who you are, and the clearer you get on who you are as an individual, the skill sets you have, how your mind works, life gets so much easier and everything is more precise, and we make right actions, great decisions all the time. So thank you again for being here. This has been wonderful. Have a great week.